Okay, I want to talk about how to use an image traced image. So this is a picture that was drawn with a Sharpie, and I wanted to turn it into a vector and be able to kind of eliminate the white and put some color back behind it. So my first initial thing I would do is I would make sure it's set up on separate layers. So this is my artwork, and what I'm going to end up doing is putting color kind of underneath this. I'll add my colors under here. And so when I go to my properties, notice that it doesn't have the image trace option. If I click on my image once that I want to use and I want to image trace, you'll see contextually it knows to add that image trace. So if I click on this once, I typically do the default. And the first round looks pretty bad typically. It looks a little choppy, it doesn't look great, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit. So this little box here is an image trace panel. I can open that, and normally the advanced settings are hidden, so you have to open those up and then work your way through these. So I usually hold the threshold. If it looks okay, I usually wait on this one. I'll adjust this later. But if I turn this slider to the right, it's saying add more black. If I turn it to the left, it's saying add less black. And you can we'll adjust that in a second. The more important ones are these three. So the paths are how precise the paths are going to try to create. The image trace is going to look at it. You can see the paths got a little bit sharper, a little bit closer to the original drawing. The corners are how smooth the corners are of your image trace. So I typically have the paths in the corners pretty high. The noise I'll drop down pretty low. The noise is kind of all the little pixelated dots and things. You can see how much detail that added when I dropped the noise down. And so now it's going to be kind of like you just kind of keep on working your way through these until you're happy with it. I usually typically do it subtly, so I might try to add more black here. It looks a little thin. That's looking a little better to me, a little more moody. Again, I can adjust the path up if I want. What's nice is nothing's permanent until you actually hit OK. So again, I just move the paths way up. And so those are pretty precise. That looks pretty close to drawing. I kind of liked it a little bit more with the lines a little bit thicker. And so, yeah, typically my paths are high, corners are high, and noise is pretty low. The last thing I do, notice that there's a white background here, so I'll hit ignore white right off the bat. And the white will go away, and this will allow me to put color back behind it. If I want to manipulate any of these paths, like these are all going to be vector lines, but right now it's just showing me a vector box. So if I hit this expand button, all those red lines have now created these into like all the little nodes, so you can actually go into all these with your little with your white direct select tool and edit and change things. So I always expand it to make sure that I can adjust and erase and add clipping masks and stuff like that. So now we have a transparent one. So at this point in time, I would probably want to add some color, unless my goal was to achieve a black and white skateboard. That would be okay. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and lock this layer. I'm going to work on this colors layer. So now, since this is transparent back behind it, I can close this dialog box. I'm going to grab my pen tool, and I want to pull up my swatches so I can kind of see, where are my swatches? There they are. They're over on my other screen, so let me pull these over. So I'm going to pull up my swatches so I can kind of pull and make some color tones. So if I grab, let's say I wanted to make kind of his suit here kind of a different color. So I'm going to kind of come in here, and since it's going back behind, I'm going to flip this to the stroke so I can kind of see my lines a little bit. Since it's going back behind here, I don't have to be ultra precise on this. I can just make sure that it's kind of in the black somewhere. And now let's say I wanted it to be kind of like a blue suit or something. I'll take that stroke off. Now I kind of have the start of something. I may want to come in here and add some different tones. So that was this blue. I might come in here and add some darker tones. So let's say I wanted like some shadowing kind of back underneath here, and I kind of create some sort of like a slightly darker tone for that. So I'm going to grab kind of like the darker blues. Oops, let me flip this kind of to the stroke. So you can kind of see, I might kind of even come in here a little bit further and kind of readjust and just kind of give the subtleties to it that it deserves, to kind of create kind of a little bit more depth and a little more color and stuff. So that's a way that you can kind of start with a drawing and add tones back behind it. I mean, you could even go further than that and add gradients if you wanted to. We've done some gradient projects where You can add like the gradient tool, and you can kind of darken, make it kind of fade in a little bit if you wanted to. But you know, I kind of like that block print look. That's kind of a little bit more kind of sharp edged and chunky colors. So that would be how, you know, it'd be a start of a way that you can work with this. I'm going to do this one in the next video and show you how to do the live paint.